And during breakfast, I read again page 131 and 32 of Ludwig Klage's Grundlagen der Charakterkunde, Basics of the Science of Character, which, after close reading during the last 3 weeks, I probably have read it like 6-7 times in similar conditions in the morning, making notes and notes and notes into the book. I like to make notes into the book in the form of graphic lines and patches of darker color, which represent the relationships I found in the text between concepts, and if I have an image or an intuition, a revelation, I also have certain marks for it, and I have marked with the insight of revelation 3 words or 3 composites. Okay, so what was it? Which I want to tell you, because we have already had the basic. We had about the 2 components of emotion: the drive, the instinct drive, which is a body part of the emotion, and then the primordial image, which is drawing, which is giving the direction to the instinct. 2 parts of emotion. And we have distinguished deep feelings with a large part of the image of the distant software of the primordial image, which is drawing us to itself. Deep feelings, flat feelings, the second type, in which the content of the image is just flattened. It's not exact what is pulling us, what is drawing us to itself. And then we have had the last one was the shadow feelings. That is, if that which is pulling us, motivating us, drawing us to itself, is artificial, which is an artifact. It is not a real organismic entity which is emanating its soul field to the space around it, and we can sense it with our soul, like if we are drawn to somebody who is really there and he is sympathetic to us, or a beautiful landscape which we look, but like, watching a movie or looking at a photograph of that person or of that landscape, we feel a kind of inner impulse to go there. If we remember a beloved person or the landscape which we like, is not a good example, because there certainly is the memory of it. We really were there. We really know this person, and so even in answering to the call of the shadow image from a photographer, we shall react deeply out of memory, because we were there, we know this person, we have touched those places. But especially in artificial worlds, like if you look at a movie which is digitally enhanced, or if you play games that take place in faraway digital lands, then you have never really been there, so the emotions will be artificial. They can fascinate you, And this is a great danger of the present day culture, because if we have said that the human being has differentiated from the animal by the fact that the dominance of the two poles of life has shifted towards the soul, okay, then during the evolution of the human being, the soul deepened and opened itself. The soul field was able to experience more and more of these primordial images, more and more of motivation from distance that were not perceived directly by the body. Whereas an animal is driven by instinct. Instinct is a vital cause of motion. Something which is living inside the animal causes him to move, pushes him to move, and this is the shortage of some element in his body, in his metabolism. Like if you are thirsty, if a wolf is thirsty, he will be driven by an instinct to find water, to unite his body cells with the molecules of water. This will be an enormous instinctive force pushing him forward, but the direction where he should run will be delivered by the primordial image of water, that is by the software of water, by the soul of some river, let us say in poetic terms, informational field, morphogenetic field of some flowing body of water, or a lake or whatever, or a brook in the woods, and the wolf pack has, each individual of them has a ability to sense it, but the dominant feature in the sensing will be the smell. Let us say they have a perfect smell, these animals now, which means they are able to perceive even a few molecules of fluid, water, vapor in the air, okay, and this will touch their nostrils, and the soul image will be born because of that, and they will simply smell where to go. The direction is given by the image, but the image is born by the smelling nostrils of the body. And it applies to animals throughout the animal kingdom now. Whereas man, certainly in the case of smelling water, he is not so good as the wolves, but he can free his soul field from this necessary kick of the nostrils by imagining, this is it, when the pole of the soul, we have this classical biocentric phenomenology model of life, that is two poles, body and soul, in a dynamic equilibrium, not an equilibrium which is static, which is a kind of pulsating relationship. Soul is dominating the body, then after some time body is dominating the soul. In the human being, a special condition arises when the soul gets so I wanted to say fucked up, but this is not the right conception. When the soul gets so transformed that it has then, after this transformation happened, then it has a kind of clot, a static, not dynamic center or part, which we call the ego. This is one of the most important presumptions, theoretical premises, and a priori in biocentric phenomenology, that the ego is a transformation of the soul field, and following that, all cognitive functions are transformation of soul emotions, soul emotional functions. No? We can get in a big detail to that now when we want to prove, for example, that cognitive conceptual thinking is a derivational change of emotional deep perception, of emotional deep experience. Emotional deep experience means that you are in a constant embracement with the calling images, with the soul's morphogenetic fields, primordial images of the surrounding biosphere, be it a landscape, be it some other human beings, be it animals, be it plants. They all have a soul. And then when you live among them, they simply merge, those fields merge. And because the human being has freed itself from the dependence on the body touch, okay, then you can dream, you can imagine, you can hope, and you can see inner images of that which you are dreaming about, hoping for, planning, and so on. And this is emotional process, emotion. Merging of soul fields is an emotion which is accompanied by visual imagery. Okay, and if you strip away all those emotions, and if you reduce all those individual soul fields to abstract concepts, and you simply become a kind of, metaphorically speaking, machine-like registering screen in which the shapes of the perceived objects appear geometrically exactly photographed and measured, and they receive coordinates, no? And maybe they received labels. There are no more names. It's not Peter, that's not Mary, that's not this beautiful garden we're walking through. It becomes a kind of entity called, labeled Mary, entity called, named Peter, moving from coordinates so and so to coordinates also to be measured very exactly in a space that is defined as a label garden, with these objects inside. Okay, you are already in the robotic what? Algorithms. You cannot say you are in a robotic mind, because robots don't have absolutely not a iota of a soul field. This is very important. If we say instinct, the drive is the vital course of emotion of all animals and also of man, whereas in a human being we add that this instinctual drive can be reversed, and the soul experience of the primordial images that are calling us, drawing us, and become visual, so that this soul power may be stronger than the instinctual power of the body, that the instinctual of the power of the body gives this first impulse, first cause of motion. Move somewhere, get it. And whereas animals will get it due to the scent, the special organs of perception will be, equipped for sensing the molecules of water. Human being will, on the contrary, imagine and remember what is the landscape and where, or think even if it was raining yesterday, there may be some water may collect in some vessels somewhere and so on. But a robot doesn't have any body instinct to drive it somewhere, because it does not have a body. It does not experience a shortage of electric current in his electromotors like a wolf experiences shortage of water molecules in his blood or in his tissue, which is the physiological basis of the soul experience of thirst, because naturally a dog, a wolf, any animal, and man has a soul, and body. The robot doesn't have anything, the machine does not have body, that's why it cannot experience shortage of something, so, and it will not be driven to to a electric battery to plug itself in because of the shortage of electricity. It can move there, but this motion will not be vitally induced. It will be induced by an algorithm which a programmer must put into the software of this machine, with the meaning, if you register, this is a very, talking about robots is very, very difficult, because the language we use was developed by thousands of years to millions of years, maybe, for the purpose of talking about us, about human beings. Now we have this robots, machines. We cannot talk about them without constantly checking ourselves if we are not using falsely words that denote processes the human body and the human soul and human, let us say, cognitive mind. So the machine is a conglomerate of smaller machines. Nobody is there. There is no center. There is no personality, no soul, no biological body. If it may be observed to move somewhere in space, then the motivation is also machine-like. It is an algorithm which reads, and only for the programmer's mind it can have the meaning if in this machine a condition occurs in which the battery is measured constantly and it reaches the level of like 10% of the battery capacity. Immediately a switch must fall down somewhere in the machine, which means another series of commands inside the machine will occur that are pre-programmed by me, the programmer, and the machine will engage, turn on the series of other parts of itself, small machines, that will then move it as a whole to a source of electric current, where it shall also, according to a command which I exactly will describe, connect to this source of electric current. This is it, and this is very demanding for the programmer to do. And only laymen who know nothing about this can be then tricked and fooled when they see this, or they see it in the movie or in some performance, that they can because they have no idea what's happening inside the machine, what's occurrence of those software programs, they can falsely interpret it like the machine is, moving, motivated by some vital interest, shortage of electric current, like shortage of oxygen or so, to the source of the energy. So the machine does not have a body, does not have perceptions of the body, does not have soul, does not have the calling of primordial images, is inhuman, and definitely does not have an ego, because we know that the ego is a derivation of the soul field. If it does not have a soul, it cannot have an ego. All this is projected by mad scientists who would like to prove this to get a grant, or maybe they are really mad and they want to, like we have those kind of stories about a mad scientist who has lost his wife and he wants to make her again, and he produces a robot and he projects all his emotions and feelings and memories into this shape and motion of the robot. Or it may be evil intent of some layman, like politicians or businessmen, who say, well, I don't need these people's stupid stuff. They really need too much care and they want to be paid and they are ill and they want to have holiday. I need robots, I need machines for everything, and so they are cheaper and they don't break down. So I must persuade the public that robots are better than people. Naturally, some moral and spiritual theories can be developed why this trend toward superhumans and transhumanists and robots and machines, why is it so strong in culture of the human civilization on this planet in the last, let us say, 200 years, since Mary Shelley has written Frankenstein. Well, in Japanese culture, they say they have the myths of puppets, very old and Asian, and kind of being a puppet is not so bad in the Japanese culture. Maybe it has to do with with Confucianistic philosophy, which stressed in China, in Japan, in Asia generally, this functioning of the whole system, political system, cultural system, is more important than the individual experience and emotion of one human being. Europe, with its Renaissance characters and romantic characters, Faustner and the young Werther and Goethe and so on, naturally has the tendency to stress the individual human being and its emotion, its biography, as if this being different is the essence of humanity, not being one part of a system, of a functioning political body. And all European cultural or political movement who would go opposite to this individualism and try to make a human being behave like a unit of a larger system would be disastrous here, will be labeled dictatorship, brainwashing, and decadence. Well, there's motivation to do it anyhow in the European or American culture now, to unify the human being to a measurable unit of a larger, technocratically controlled and oneness, wholeness, which is strongly supported by the machines, may be simply an expression of decadence. One solution, expression of decadence, don't search for nothing more. It's over. Dying cultures have the tendency to search for remedy, naturally. So maybe in old time it may be some religious remedies, like somebody is going to come, the gods are going to come and save us. If this does not happen, then another solution will suggest that they are not going to save us. They are already here and they are punishing us because we have been the sinners. This decadence, this destruction is wrath of the gods. Okay, then for some time they will be living with this idea, but this is really depressive. It doesn't taste good, even to those who invent it. But well, then they will sit down and think about what else can we do. We'll say that somebody evil is trying to destroy us. We are good. On our side we have the good gods, but there is an alien influence that is trying to destroy us. Okay, this is good. This gives a motivation. We can fight for the good, and we will be helped by the good gods. Oh, what a great adventure. We can even fall in love with that. It was in the old times. Such solutions were suggested when decadence befell a culture. But today we don't believe in gods anymore. I mean, seriously. What will happen? What kind of explanation shall we find? Well, if it is a scientific culture, it may even fall upon the idea that life actually is not so perfect as it seemed at the beginning, that better life is augmentation of life with a machine, because it does not make a mistake and so on. and it does not, weaken, and it can be replaced, the parts, and it is more economic, and it does not have fits of melancholy and so on. And then it is important that philosophers and phenomenologists come out and say, no, you are making a mistake when you think about a machine and giving it to attributes of inner behavior and bodily experience like a human being. Nothing of that happens. You will be condemned to program those machines all the time. Okay, and to pretend that they are, like us. And this depends on this idea of what is actually the soul, how it is motivated, and we have explained it by an example of the wolf, who is like an animal, thirsty, body perception dominates the soul experience, soul emotion, and then human being, body perception is still there, but the soul can dissociate from the body and can imagine, can become independent, and then it can even develop this ego, which will taint, color all body instincts and emotions with the, with the warning or with the appraisal. This is I who experienced this. What is important for us is to say that with this transfer, with this change of domination in the poles, a lot of primordial images have actually opened themselves to the freshly, deep, the fresh and deep soul of the early humans. No? Whereas before they were dependent like animals on the sensual perception, no? For their motivation. Now they could start to dream, imagine, and experience images and emotions that were not caused by body perception. In other words, the morphogenetic fields, the soul, the primordial images of all living biosphere of trees, plants, rivers, lakes, mountains. It is all opened to them. Okay, it became visible. Okay, as if the images have opened in their eyes. Nah? They woke. This is the waking up of the biosphere, waking up of the surroundings, awakening, enlarging of the visual field of the soul. We could even speculate, I did it in my notes, because as I have said, I have been reading these 2 pages for the last 2 weeks, and before that for the last 20 years. Not every 2 weeks, but like once in 20 years I would read it for a longer period of time, and during this period I would read it every day. So there are associations that are really beyond normal just style, where I would read something once and I would forget it now. So this word awakening, so far before the awakening of those images in human soul that can be then felt and imagined at a distance. Before the awakening, they were functional. They were causing, they motivated the human animal since his origin, since he became, like from those squirrels, and the mammals started to develop, and the apes and stuff like that. They were also shaped by morphogenetic fields, we say. This is what we say on the highest level, that the primordial images are real, and they determine the growth of the living matter. They determine the growth and function of all organs, of all tissues, and of all cells in all organismic bodies, because they are the software of life, only it never occurs in the souls of these organisms, of trees and of animals, that this is happening. They are blind to this. And that the same way the early man was blind to the effect of those primordial images, which we call a software of living matter. The software that is constantly, dynamically reprogramming, if we use this metaphor. We can use, we can make the same mistake that now we start to talk about life as if it was a computer which has a software. I'm doing this only to make it accessible for the modern here. In ontological fact, this morphogenetic fields of the biosphere, the primordial images, they are associating and dissociating, merging and separating according to other principles than algorithmic equations in the software of modern machines. There is a force, living force, that pulls together the similar and dissociates and pushes away the dissimilar. And then there is a innate tendency of these primordial images, morphogenetic fields, to embody into the elementary world. The elementary world, the cosmic dust that has shaped planets and stars and whatever, is after all a kind of depository of non-living matter that can be entered, into which the primordial images can embody and bring it to life. And then it continues, and either it is successful or not, and so it falls apart again. The primordial images draw back and are pulled into the software. Let's say I use the word again, into those clouds of primordial images that are consistent in exerting their influence on the matter, which becomes the body of their souls. And then it can merge and embody again a little part of this, the soul has grown. Two souls have merged. One was already in an association with an organically living body, and now it has been, united with another soul field, and so another embodiment will, a variation, and we already are in that what evolution was supposed to be from Darwin. But the evolution of Darwinists is a purely materialistic process where, genetic variations and some radiations and mutations happen in the matter, in the living matter itself, without any influence of some software, of some primordial image. So, well, then it is for the spiritual believer, it is not too much problem to make another step and say that the total sum of primordial images is the God. Any kind of godlike entity which emanates these primordial images, and they embody, and this is the so-called emergent theory in opposition to the evolution theory of matter now only. Whatever. For us, these metaphysical big questions will never be probably solved because we are not there. We can try to be there if we find a method of associating, of taking part in the flux and the constant dynamic growth of these primordial images, in modern terms, software of living matter. If we try a method to be inside this, and I don't have to point out that this bardic method, which I call the method de la prima, of a dreamlike, poetic-like waiting passively for the revelations which come to us and describing them, is certainly methodological, more reliable to take part in the process of the godlike emanation of primordial images than a scientific method of exact analytical thinking in concepts where the soul field is flattened and is, shot through by a series of intentional conscious acts. We know from Husserl, the father of phenomenology, that consciousness, human consciousness, is always intentional, directed towards one object. Build an image for this. Metaphor is a torchlight, a clear white ray penetrating the darkness. When you come up the wooden stairs to your attic, where you keep all the old stuff from your parents and grandparents, founding fathers of your family, is kept there in a kind of confusion. And you come up and you turn on the torchlight and you move it in the darkness and you see this part an old shoe, and this a frame of an old picture, and this you see there is what do I see? A chandelier, and some old half-open books. The photographs are coming out. And these old skis of my grandpa made of wood. So you see, this is the analytical beam of directed conscious power, which wants to recognize, to understand separately one after the another, and then make a model that you come down and you can make a kind of drawing of what is up there in the attic now, and you can repeat it, and you can add some other details, but it never is a kind of emotional vision. If you sit down at the fireplace below the attic and you drink your red wine and you listen to your guitar and you have this kind of emergent feeling that you are the last of this generation of fathers and mothers and children and daughters, and you see them kind of with your inner eye. You remember the thrust of your founding fathers, and you are now there, the last one living, and in you can be born the essence, the soul, the mission, the vision of this family. This is emergent theory. This is the emergent theory. It all the past is living in the present moment. In you, according to your abilities, to your body fitness and soul elasticity, a part of this primordial thrust of the whole family history will emerge out of you. The analytical method of modern science is to make 25,000 trips to the attic with the torchlight and note it diligently, come back down and make a big piece of paper and make a kind of, as far as possible, an exact copy of all items that been cited, and then look at it in an analytical concentrated mind and say, well, this, what is it? I cannot, it's too much, because the consciousness, the beam, the directing beam can only jump from one to the other, and then you would have to, you roll it and put it to the library and say, now, we know enough. We will make a theory, a scientific theory about the mission we have. And you are already in where you are in the shadow world of concepts. Because these concepts, these abstract ideas, don't have a body of their own. They don't have the souls of their own. They are abstract. Abstract means that you have pulled away all that was really individual as an individual body, as an individual soul. You have pulled them all away, and now you have a lexical definition of what it is. If you want to talk about trees in abstract terms, well, you can go to the woods and you can photograph 1,000 individual trees. This one is small, this one is big, this one is standing the shallow valley alongside the brook, this one is standing on the shore of the lake, this one high up in the mountains on the rocks, and so you can make thousands individual bodies of the trees, and then you come back and you say, well, what is the common for all of them? Okay, they have a stem, they have branches, and they have roots. That's enough. You will even forget that they stay in space. You don't have to think about the space. You have it without space, because it is abstracted from space, no? And you extract it also from time. You say, I collected like 500 photographs in the last week. Every day it was like 100, so I can forget about the timeline of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Take them all together, and I abstract from time. And that's how you have concepts are beyond time and space, because they can be used everywhere. You can come with this your little definition of what is a tree, and you can go here, and you can go somewhere else, no? To your friend's house, and say, let's walk in your woods, and I will tell you that my fantastic definition applies even to your trees. Look, does this your tree in your garden, this your apple tree, does it have a stem? Yes. Does it have branches? Yes. Does it have roots? So it is a tree according to my definition. And you can do it even tomorrow and it will be valid. So when it is valid everywhere and all the time, then it by itself, its essence must be beyond time and space. So all abstract thinking, and it includes the most of all religion and all science and all philosophy, all politics, is beyond time and space. No? And as beyond time and space does not have a body, does not have a soul, it cannot be part of the constant flux of primordial images of living matter. It cannot embody. So what it can do, it can be, an illusion, a fantasy, madness, and it has to be forced to embody by other functions of the ego, which is will to power. Conceptual thinking is already one part that we have mentioned. Okay? By a certain kind of perception which loses the flux of phenomena and freezes them into clearly defined objects. No? Descartes, rationalism, and so on. This is only logical that Descartes has defined the soul as a disturbance of the analytical reason. Protuberationes anime, the whirlwinds, the turbulences of the soul disturb my logical thinking. Well, we say this was a decadent sentence. It was the expression of the fall of the human race from its potential, a fall into the shadow world of abstraction. So this is one word which we have made kind of marked dark area in the text on the page 131, I guess, of this phenomenological book of Ludwig Klages, when we have read that they wake up the images, the primordial images, the Urbilder in German, which is the software of living matter in modern terms, morphogenetical field. woke up in the soul of the later human beings who were able to disconnect from the full domination of the body perception. The one pole, the body, receded slightly behind the second pole, that is the soul. The soul was able to feel the calling of the wild, of the woods and the rivers and the fires and the stars and the trees and the animals and other human beings, to feel the calling at a distance, and like that, the primordial images that were so far expressing their influence only in the shaping of the morphology of the metabolism of the human bodies, because nevertheless all the hearts, all the livers, all the lungs, all the legs, all the bones were growing in the species hereditary generation. They were growing according to a morphogenetic field of a living animal body. But it was absolutely not seen, felt, or imagined as a kind of, even if it would call it like the embodiment of some godly emanation, or it absolutely didn't occur even in the mirror of the soul. As you have already heard, I have introduced the concept and image of the mirror of the soul when I feel kind of inclined to talk about the awareness, inner picturing, inner experience of what is going on around me or even inside me, in a kind of stepping away from it and reflecting it as if in a mirror. I don't yet to have to jump into analytical consciousness, which is the narrowing of the mirror of the soul, which is the torchlight in the darkness. So in this mirror of the soul, when it started to live, to be experienced, then those primordial images of the lakes and the rivers and the mountains and the winds and the sky and whatever, flowers and animals and other, they woke up. They became to be reflected. They became to be experienced. And second step, even in the real empirical world, the humans were starting to look upon nature as upon something, that makes you feel beauty or meaning or attraction or a kind of homeliness. Okay. And this, why did I mark it? Because it associated with me with the word awakening, and then goes very fast to enlightenment. And we have seen that in so far the tradition of human search for awakening and enlightenment has taken the root of the Gnostic way. That is, it was supposed that enlightenment and awakening is achievement of some secret, of something more than nature, of some secret formula, or some maybe nature-like worlds, but that are higher worlds in some other dimension. One should awaken to this, should be enlightened to this when one renounces the body perception and the soul emotion of this world as a kind of fallen, imperfect, sinful, even, this is a Gnostic basic idea, the trend to get away. Nietzsche would say, once, very well done. One more step and do yourself away with. Go and let this beautiful earth to us, if you want to go somewhere else. The otherworldly, according to Nietzsche, an expression of decadence. If you cannot live in this world, you will start to dream about other worlds. But what is important, these dreams of other worlds in the Gnostic tradition and in the transhumanist tradition, the dream of other bodies and other souls, robotic, machine-like, is not a natural dream. They have been taken away into the shadowlands. As we have said, artifacts, man-made objects are not grown. Okay, they don't have a body, they don't have a soul, and they emanate something which would be called, if you turn off, if there's a breakdown in transmission on the TV, then it is the background noise. This is simply an electronic, visualized electronic, basic circulation of some currents in some machine wires and relays and stuff like that, and it is received by the apparatus, by another machine that is normally supposed to transfer signals into an algorithmically governed change of luminosity and color and the kind of cells, parts of the screen, and the pixels. The idea of a scene or of some action and the emotional reaction to a film or a sequences of scenes, this all is a production of a human soul. It doesn't have to do with the screen. The screen is simply algorithmically governed change of states, colorful and luminosity in the pixels and the parts of the screen. And if this signaling breaks down and nothing comes in, which could be turned into pixels and shades and luminosity and so on, then it will produce this background, noise and background image of knistering dots of darkness and light. You don't need a spectator, even, the screen never needs a spectator. There is not conception of a need, that you're sitting in front of that and you experience great adventure with Caius Caesar or Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings. This is your story. You invent all that, you produce all of that, and it is a shadow world, you see. It is not coming from an organically grown reality. Sometimes it may have deep influence, a real influence of you, if it is your own memory. If you are looking at the films you have made in your young days when you were with your girlfriend on the bike tour somewhere, through Europe or so. But strangely enough, didn't you notice after some time you don't get into the right condition of your soul to look at these films with full pleasure, because you immediately know intuitively that it is not real, because you know how it was real. So it is better for you to sit down with a glass of wine and listen to the music of the time, close your eyes, and picture the scene like you are sitting on the motorcycle somewhere at the end of Sicily, or maybe end of Italy. You are trying to cross the Messina Strait, and you get onto a small boat with her, and it is really shaky because there are strong currents, and you are holding to each other on the deck, and the wind is in your face, and the rain is in your eye, in her eyes, and then you come on the other side, and you get on the motorcycle, and you go to Taormina. You have a sandwich on the steps of the old theater in Taormina, and then you get on the bike and you go up the surprisingly wide and modern road onto Etna, which you see in the distance like a snowy cap, and this is so this is real, and this is living in time, because as we have said, all the past that was truly experienced by organic beings with organic souls. I mean, souls are not organic, but real souls, is a soul of this biosphere, is taken into the larger conglomerates of similar emotional experiences, and it is growing and growing, and it's present in the present moment as an effect of the past. We have a very powerful concept of time which is not linear and governed by causality. We have a conception of time which is a morphogenetical field which is growing all the time like a living soul, and the memory is shaping the present. It is emergence, emanation. So we can also be co-creators in this sense if we really embody our memory, which becomes living in the present moment. And we come into beware, so that you don't go mad by believing it what is in the software, that it is real. You have to, because it is growing, it can never be as it was in the past, logically. It would be fading, it would be turning around in time, but it can grow on in something similar. So, what does it mean? Another trip to Messina Strait on another motorcycle, or you can repair your old one. And what is above all, another girl, or if it would be possible that you find the old one who listened to your lectures and she says, this is it. I didn't understand it at the time that we were living at the top level of our embodiment of the archetypes of adventure. Let's go again, whatever. Or any case, you must go even alone and dream it on the road, embody it in the road. This is enough. And if your embodiment, if your dream state is true and strong, then it will draw to itself something of a similar kind, which may be another girl. Maybe she will have her own motorcycle, like a modern Amazon, and she will realize, shit, man, this guy, he knows the stuff, he knows the secrets, he can explain to me what I'm feeling and desiring. Okay, well, wouldn't it be beautiful to have a novice, a student like that? No, so forget it. Now we were carried away by those true images. They were true. They were not shadows. You didn't see Easy Rider on some Easy Rider film. Will not have this influence if you dream about it with a glass of wine on your porch or in front of your fireplace, and then you go to your garage and start the Zen. You open your old book, The Art of Zen in repairing of a motorcycle, motorcycle repairing and the art of Zen, and then you go. It will be different. So remember that. Last, what I want to say, that the word awaken, in German, die Bilder erwachen, in the Seele, that's mentioned. Okay, the primordial images wake up in the soul of the perceiver. All the natural beauty has another taste than when it is perceived through the animal eye. And I have jumped into this concept of awakening in meditation texts from it, and have had this lightning of realization, or a cloud, because lightning is too short, a slowly growing cloud of realization. But in the moment when it opened, it was sudden that we have misunderstood this concept of awakening and enlightenment in the Gnostic tradition by wishing and supposing and desiring that it means a breakaway from this biosphere, from this beautiful nature, and our friends and our time and space in our locality to some other permanent, beautiful, strong other world. No, we say this is wrong. What? And now we have a kind of phenomenological support for that. What awakens are the primordial images of nature, and they awaken in your soul, even though they were effective so far in growing your body and in governing your metabolism, even though you did not have any visual or emotional correlate of it in the mirror of your soul. Do you understand? The primordial images of trees and lakes and rivers and clouds and animals and other people, if they have a kind of, deep soul, they awaken in your soul and you enjoy that. And this is the effect of real primordial images of living matter. Whereas if you look at shadows, which are images digitally produced or photograph produced, film, celluloid produced by certain analogical means, light and the celluloid, projection on the screen, and in modern time, digital kind of algorithms that change the luminosity of color, frequency of pixels, you will never have these truly human emotions and truly human callings, because the truly human callings are caused by true primordial images or software of living matter, which is in space and time, the same space and time as you are in, and that's why it can pull you, where you can never be pulled into a digital space. I mean, you can, but then at the cost of flattening your soul, killing your soul actually, because if you want to pull it into a digital 101000010, then it has lost all its human qualities. And what is the trick? What is the danger? Sometimes realized, sometimes not realized, by these artificial images of the shadow world, that they are too direct. They show to you in one stroke dragons and warriors and princesses, whatever, that, this is a illusion. You succumb to this sudden illusion, because that's the trick. It has the similar effect on your soul as if you would sit on your porch with a glass of wine maybe and be a poet and need like several hours to develop the story, but which would be composed of parts of your life which you have really experienced. And even more powerful would be to remember those real experiences of your life that were pivotal, that were really strong, and restage them in such a detail which maybe was even impossible in the time when you were experiencing it, and go there to the locality and there make a creative imagination session, alone or with others. That would be very powerful. You would be a co-creator. You would be taking part in the real images, because the locality, that is also important to say, the real geographical locality of your deep experiences still keeps the emotional state you have had. It keeps it in its in its area. If there were some similar human beings experiences in the past, so it is a cloud, sometimes called egregor in the Gnostic language, a cloud, an informational, emotional, visual cloud that is maybe even shaping the trees and the rivers and the woods. And this is the genius loci. So why do all the tourists will go to Venice and say see Venice and then you can die? Well, maybe I just speculated. Venice has been certainly a scene of a lot of real or artificial or imagined or staged love affairs between men and women in the human history, and maybe it is it's saturated, the architecture and the canals and the ships, and to a certain degree that it really is there effective, this love, romantic love archetype. So this is what I want to finish with. We have touched upon the awakening of primordial images in the human soul in the development from animal to a human being. We have touched on the trickery influence of the shadows that are images we experience when we look at artificially produced images, like cinema and video, with the exception that we are ourselves the producers, that is our documents from our past, also that the experience of such a document is strange in a way because it immediately is recognizable as not real. And we have touched upon this difference between machine and human being. Okay, so I'll leave you with that for so far. We will continue reading the page 130 and 131 from Ludwig Klage's The Basic Principles of the Science of Character, of Human Character. Human character is another expression in Klage's for the soul. Okay, individual bodies, individual souls, born children in a specific place, in specific time, influenced by the natural locality and by the tradition of the family and the culture to which they are born. This all will shape their character. They will have an individual soul. This changes then when the influence of the ego arises in the human soul. Very important premise of biocentric phenomenology. Ego cluster arises in the human soul. It's a derivation, functional change of the human soul field. It has specifications like certain specific functions of the human soul field then can be described as consciousness, self-consciousness. In opposition to this, if we clean the soul field from the consciousness and self-consciousness, we have what we call mirror of the soul. Okay. Another function of the ego is objectifying perception, which is individual clear objects, as we have had the story about the torchlight beam in the attic of your house, seeing and sharply defining one object at a time. If we clean that, if we dissolve the ego derivation, the soul field will function naturally again, and we will have a mirror of the soul, which is deep and which mirrors the flow of phenomena. Not certainly all phenomena, because the mirror is directed somewhere, but in the way it is directed, it mirrors all in front of it without selecting in time one and the other. So if you look into the mirror and you move your eyes, then you see that individual objects arise and emerge from the whole background. Okay, so this is again an emergent theory. Okay, conceptual thinking, another derivation of the soul field under the influence of the ego, concepts, devote or the cleaned from time and space, coloration of individual organismically grown trees, plants. We had this example now. And if you dissolve the ego, the conceptual thinking will give way again to deep individual perception of this plant, that tree, another tree, and so on. And if you make generalizations, it's possible. I mean, I'm not saying that these 5 derivation functions of the ego are something evil now, which should not be used. Naturally, we have them as human beings, and we can. I'm doing the same now. Probably this whole lecture of mine is fluctuating change between emotionally colored, poetic, bardic vision, which is the soul field, mirror of the soul, and then analytical description, what is the meaning of what I experience, or how does it connect with the whole structure of biocentric phenomenology, which is also a discipline written down in concepts. But we can use them, all those 5 functions of the ego, derivation of the human soul field, we can use them to defend the soul and the body and the biosphere of Mother Gaia, defending life, pointing out at the mistakes that have been done. We certainly do not develop an institution or a technology of fighting against the cognitive functions, against the research institutes, against the politicians and the military and science and chemistry and so on. It would be another paradoxical, like if you would like to, in meditation, even in Zen, you would say, I will fight against the concept of I. The ego will fight against the concept of the ego. Well, then you are mistaken. You are on a superego trip. And you can become a kind of, yes, unfortunate, frustrated figure who is pretending to be enlightened and actually is even more imprisoned in his concept of enlightenment. And this is what we suppose has happened for the majority of the enlightened gurus or philosophers or thinkers of scientists in the European tradition and even Asian tradition, when they were thinking in the terms of the gnosis. And we have centered this all on one word. This is very interesting. I started this lecture when we have circled one word on this page 130, where Klages wrote about the awakening of the primordial images of nature in the soul of man and the period of transition from animal to human life. Okay, and what awoke were the images of the primordial images, the software, the morphogenetic fields of nature, which were so far only shaping your body, the human body. They were in action because you breathe the air, you drink the water, you digest the plants, okay, so they shape your body and metabolism. But you do not see their soul and their beauty. So after that, it was possible to look at streams of water, the dance of sunlight on the river, the leaves that move in the fresh wind, to feel the soft smell of the Mediterranean sea wind on your shoulders in the morning as you sit in the cafe. If you have parked your bicycle, motorbike, and you have a breakfast with your girlfriend, and you enjoy those primordial images of wind, sun, water, trees in a human, deep way, this is it. You are not agnostic who wants to be enlightened in a way that some secret, hidden, algorithmic, or hidden and secret signs, written information will be passed on you and you become a member of a secret order of the hidden light now. Okay, I leave you with that. Be ready to go to the cafe on the old motorcycle and relive the true images.